little webinar today to explain basically how nutrition and your metabolism are functioning and how our program applies to helping you change both of those things for whatever your goal may be. Maybe it's athletic performance, maybe it's weight management, maybe it's a specific health outcome that you're looking for. And we are going to start off with Sarah.
Okay, Rachel, can you see the slide moving and hear us okay? Wait, sorry, hold on. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, just want to check before I keep going. Okay, well, hi everybody. We're going to start with talking about nutrition in our program for health, metabolism, and longevity. And by the end of this section, I feel like you will be very confident in knowing the difference between just doing an on the plan, off the plan diet, as I call it, or a fad diet, versus changing your lifestyle with nutrition. What it looks like to have a healthful diet, and very much about the how-to and practical application for things, and about personal nutrition, how that can have a major impact on how your results fare, how you can build your lifestyle, and how it really benefits you, and how it's really worth it to invest in your personal nutrition, and how it can really impact your results. So I'll also throw in some holiday tips, because I get a lot of questions like that around this time of year with each thing that I talk about. So, okay, so quickly, proper nutrition can be the missing link to achieve lifelong health. A lot of times people know this about themselves. They'll come to me and say, I know that this is the issue. I know that this section of my health is not great, and I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to fuel myself for my goals. I don't know what's good and what's not good. There's a lot of information out there, and I just want to know how to fuel myself right. And some people aren't aware of how to fuel themselves right either, but most of the time you kind of know this, and it's important to recognize.
Nicole.
So in doing my research, I found this figure, and I'll talk about it more on the next slide as well, but what truly is a fad diet? How can you identify if something is temporary? A lot of the times right now we're seeing, keto diets, we're seeing a lot of things like detoxes, a lot of juice cleanses, some of those verbiages out there. We're seeing I could even consider Whole30 to be in this, just because there's a very strict time frame and a lot of restrictions, but it's just characterized as a trendy diet pattern known to be a quick fix, something that you could do before Christmas, after Christmas, something that's very short term to just kind of get yourself a reset. And the reason why these may not be as beneficial are that you're really just not truly getting all the nutrients you could be. It's promoting short-term change, which usually ends up in rebound just based on metabolism things. There's a lot of trouble holding on to the habits that you built during a fad diet. It usually doesn't consider physical activity and fueling for that. And yes, you can lose weight really quickly, but it doesn't last. Usually you pack on more pounds afterwards just due to the metabolic adaptations your body goes through. And that's kind of where people think their metabolism is slow or broken, because you basically cut down your calories super fast and you need to be able to fuel yourself. So moving on to the next slide, I've kind of reiterated the fad diet characteristics on here and compared them to living a really healthy lifestyle. And there's a lot of bullets on here, but I'll explain each. And knowing that, yes, you can do crazy things for your diet around this time of year. You can, adopt some of these fad diets, but they're not great just because they're not necessarily always helpful in meeting your goals. They don't fuel exercise as much. They're pretty restrictive most of the time. They're not really well supported by science. And even when they do study in science these specific fad diets, they do it for a very short period of time, and they don't really follow up with their participants. So they don't know if they kept the weight on. And they've done long-term weight studies as well and seen that a lot of times people do regain weight, and it's usually from fat and not muscle weight. So, and that is not great long-term. But when you end up actually going more of the long-term, lifestyle type of changes, it's very inclusive with your diet, actually. It includes a lot of food. It's fueling your body well. It's not just cutting down on food and eating less and less and less. It's very well backed by science to have healthy habits. you're able to keep your results without looking in the mirror and saying, okay, when is the shoe going to drop? When am I going to regain this weight? I've worked so hard, but it's really hard to keep up. You don't feel that way when you're living a healthy lifestyle with food. And you're focusing on your overall health too. You're preventing chronic diseases. You're able to build lean muscle and maintain it as you get older. You're able to make it through menopause and be able to see really good outcomes without having to struggle with your health. So a lot of these benefits is coming from focusing on the long term. And I always believe in that because that's what I see in my clients every day. So when it comes to nutrition habits that support your success, again, I have a lot of things on here and a lot of bullets, but I just want to give you as much quick successes as I can in this webinar. So in terms of these things, I went back in the research and I said, okay, what is a really great, comprehensive study I can find that shows all of these things? And I found one, and it was looking across all types of research, and they found these characteristics in people who are really, really successful with their weight, with their health, with eating well and eating properly. And some of those characteristics are making sure that you do limit junk food. It's a little bit hard around this time of year because you have a lot of sweets going around and you have a lot of family gatherings, but just making sure that you're able to portion control well for your body and your needs, making sure that you have lots of whole foods, fruits and veggies, keeping the sugar sweetened beverages a little bit lower, having appropriate calorie intake, and that's kind of where the personal nutrition comes in a little bit. Having lean sources of protein, making sure that you're drinking a lot of water, and making sure that you're managing your stress, making sure that you're able to eat to build lean muscle so your metabolism stays high. That's what the calories are needed at rest there. And being able to have good physical activity fueled by good food. And during the holidays, my biggest tip here would be to make sure that when you go to a party or go to a family gathering, that you make your plate up, you move away from a buffet or a charcuterie board, you sit down, you are intentional with the people that you're with, and you have either a big portion of something you really want and smaller portions of other things, or just a sampling of everything if you're somebody who likes to taste everything, but just making sure the portions stay low. So that's my biggest tip during the holidays that are applicable to these success tips. So as far as personal nutrition is concerned, there's a lot of benefits when it comes to focusing on this. There's a lot of intentional things going. And when I think of this as a dietitian, I think about assessing somebody and really building a custom plan for their needs. So that's just a short summary of what personal nutrition is. It's tailoring everything to you, your body, your lifestyle, your goals, etc. So some of the benefits to personal nutrition and working on this and actually hiring a professional to help you or just focusing in any way for yourself is it can really help you reduce any lifestyle barriers that you have. If you just get a generic fad diet or meal plan and you're like, well, I don't eat breakfast in the morning, I'm not hungry, I'll throw up if I have that. Or, hey, I work out really late in the evening because that's the only time I have. How do I eat for that? It reduces those barriers because you work around them, you work through them. You can also, as a dietitian too, with personal nutrition, I can sense if you have been on a lot of fad diets and your metabolism's off and actually put you on a path that will help you lose fat, but also rebuild your metabolism if that's your goal. You can also have more clarity on what your body responds well to, what's good for you versus somebody else. It doesn't really focus on restriction. It focuses on all the foods you can eat. It makes you more confident in your choices. It helps you to align your everyday actions with nutrition towards your goals so that you actually get towards your goals and can progress. You can actually save less time and money wasted on generic plans, wasted on detoxes that are sometimes really expensive. You just go right to the point, you solve the issue, and you save a lot of that energy too. And if you don't specialize in looking up things, you don't even want to spend time looking up things about nutrition, but if you don't specialize and you didn't go to school for this, it's nice to use somebody who has and who can cut down on all the time you could spend looking up things to fix your nutrition. And it's more accountability and support, which is sometimes the number one reason why people invest in their personal nutrition. and work on it, because usually involves another person who's a partner, who's an accountability source. It's something that you're not alone with usually when working on this. So here's a little example of a very similar client profile that I work with. I made this really up, but it's basically encompassing a lot of things that I see into one, just to show you. And it's a common example I have. So think about this as I talk and think, is this something that I struggle with? You know, is this something that is relevant to me, especially around this time of year? You know, think about all those things as well. So client SL came to me with these struggles: a lot of low energy, eating out for convenience because SL is very busy, not hungry for breakfast, but has a really high appetite at nighttime, has very picky children, and feels like she's always having to be a short order cook, and has a goal to lose 10 pounds and get cholesterol to normal levels. Okay, so there's a mixture of having a fat loss goal, being able to be eating convenient and fuel her family, but also an overall health goal of trying to get cholesterol at a normal level. So when I met with this individual, I basically went ahead and put together a plan that was able to be very convenient, and even some ideas that worked well with their kids. Also, I was able to basically focus on the overall health portion and tweak that meal plan to be able to include items that would increase her fiber and omega-3s to help with that lowering of the cholesterol and make it very seamless so she didn't have to think about those things. I also worked around her meal schedule, but I also tweaked it. I said, hey, let's try and eat a little bit earlier in the day. Let's try and break that cycle of not eating in the morning, eating way too much at night, waking up feeling kind of sluggish and stomach is hurting from the night before, and just broke the cycle and said, let's eat earlier so that way you can have more even fueling throughout the day. And also building in a snack at night, because if the hunger is still high, you might as well just play with that and be able to say, this is what we're doing. We're going to have a snack in order to continue to be consistent with the plan. So again, ask yourself if this is struggles that you have. Maybe you can pick one of these things today and implement it. Maybe as the holiday season goes, you're able to implement these things. I would say the biggest thing with holidays right now is to not skip meals. It's very easy to say, hey, I'm going to a party. I don't want to overeat in the middle of the day, but I would say, hey, just have a breakfast, have a lunch, have a snack. Don't go into that event hungry, and enjoy. Okay, Tristan.
And I'm going to turn it over to the exercise portion of things. So aerobic exercise, what is it? It is our traditional cardio. It can take on many different forms, and it has many, many benefits. But oftentimes, some of the most important benefits end up overlooked. And with aerobic exercise specifically, there is a lot of misinformation out there on intensity. How hard should you be doing your cardio? How long should you be doing your cardio? You can get information of all kinds all over if you're seeing this on social media and things of that nature. And a lot of it is actually incorrect. And I see this every day in my lab. Individuals are coming in, they exercise 5 days a week, and they're not seeing any results. And they're actually getting more and more fatigued as they exercise. And this is often because the exercise intensity or duration that they're actually utilizing in their plan is incorrect for their specific metabolism. And this is one of the biggest topics where I see most of the issue actually occurring. And it comes down to these two differing forms of exercise. Both are extremely necessary, but the formula for implementing these is very important and very, very often done incorrectly. So HIIT, high intensity interval training. This is training that brings your heart rate up very high, preferably about up to 90% of your maximum heart rate, and then you drop it back down and rest for an amount of time, and you do this repeatedly. So this is your HIIT training. This is extremely trendy and very common. There's a lot of boutique studios that their entire programming is based around this HIIT training. And so what does HIIT training actually do for you? You do burn more calories doing HIIT training, but there's a misconception here, which I'll get to in just a second. It can be done in a very short amount of time, which is extremely appealing for many due to their schedules, work schedules, kids, things of that nature. It does increase your peak performance. Some negatives of HIIT are it's extremely taxing on the body, not just from your like musculoskeletal system, but metabolically as well. And this is very often overlooked. The risk of injury is very high since you are bringing your heart rate up to almost maximum, and it is extremely difficult. Some examples of HIIT training are your Orange Theory classes. So this one's very popular. That is a high intensity interval training class. Perform Ignite at the Lake Nona Performance Club. If anyone's been over here and done those classes, that's a HIIT class as well. Most of your cycling classes, sprints, maybe outside or on the treadmill, and any of those hills functions that you might experience when you're on the treadmill as well. And one of the biggest things here is this HIIT training should only be about 20% of your overall training. And I have clients that come in daily that do this 5 days a week. It's almost 100% of their training. And what this ends up doing is it ends up training a portion of your metabolism where you actually do not see the majority of your results, which I'll get into in just a moment. And the opposite of this HIIT training is LISS, low intensity steady state. So this is things like walking, jogging, slow bike riding, going on a walk with a dog, maybe a vinyasa yoga class, hiking or paddleboarding. Some qualities of LISS training is you're actually burning fat while you do this. So what happens in the metabolism is based upon the intensity of your exercise. That's what determines what your body is actually burning. It's always calories, but those calories are coming from either sugar stored in glucose and glycogen in your body or fats. And when you're doing HIIT training, you're actually burning almost no fat whatsoever. It's all coming from sugar. So yes, you are burning more calories, but those calories aren't actually coming from a very meaningful place. Whereas with this low intensity steady state training, that's where you have your highest fat burning potential possible. Some downsides to this LISS training is it does take about 60 minutes a day to implement. But some really great benefits are it increases endurance. You recover from this extremely quickly because it's a very low impact, so it's very safe, and it is very easy to implement as well. And when it comes to aerobic exercise, this should be about 80% of it. And what does this actually look like? So this top graph is looking at total heart rate. So this squiggled line up top, this is your HIIT training. So, and you can see you're going from about 70% of your heart rate all the way up to at least 90. And you're repeating this over and over and over again, compared to the LISS training down here, where you're going from about 60 to 70%. And this graph down here on the bottom is explaining what is occurring in some of these zones. And if we look from 60 to 70%, where this LISS training occurs almost exclusively, this is actually where your body burns the most amount of fat per minute. So if your goal is weight management, metabolic health, changing your body composition, this low intensity steady state zone is actually crucial to increasing your body's ability and cells' ability to burn those fat molecules. Whereas if we look at this HIIT training, you're almost never in that fat burning zone. You stay up at very high glucose usage rates. So your blood sugar is going to be changing. You're going to be craving sugar because you're utilizing it so quickly. So this is sort of how this comes into play. So this HIIT training should really only be about 20%, maybe 25% of your training, whereas the rest should come from this LISS. And why is that? So this is actually how the human body creates energy. We have a few different systems that are going on all the time, but one of them dominates depending on the intensity of exercise. We have our phosphagen system. This is basically our rocket fuel. We only have about 15 seconds worth of this phosphagen system before it's depleted. So this would be something if you had to sprint as fast as you can for 100 meters. This system would be the dominating system, and then it runs out of capacity. This only creates one energy molecule, so it's very inefficient, but very fast. Then we move into glycolysis. This is where you're going to be utilizing your sugar and your blood glucose. This can be with or without oxygen, so it varies on how many energy molecules you're creating. So you can see you're creating at the best about 36 energy molecules when you're burning a sugar. And now if we move down into that where that LISS training occurs, you can be burning and creating about 131 of these energy molecules. So when you burn a fat compared to a sugar, it is about 4 times more efficient at creating energy. And this is sort of the basis behind all exercise programs that you've seen. So looking at duration and rest intervals, this is where it's coming from. On to resistance exercise. So this is your weightlifting. This has another whole separate group of benefits and reasons for doing it. And oftentimes what we'll see is people will fall into two categories. So some will only implement resistance training, and another group will only implement aerobic training, where really you need to find a balance between both of these. Your entire metabolism that your aerobic training is based upon is determined by how much of this muscle you have that you build during this resistance exercise. And if you've ever done a resistance training program, and in the program it says, hey, I want you to do 12 reps and I want you to wait 3 minutes in between your sets. There is a physiological reason for this, and it comes back to these energy systems. All of your rest periods are based upon these energy systems. So this phosphagen system right here, it takes about 10 minutes to restore this. This happens automatically in the cells, but it does. It takes about 10 minutes to get up to maximum storage. Glycolysis takes a little bit shorter time, so you can do this in maybe about 90 seconds. And this is really where a lot of these training programs come from. So if we're looking at, if you want to grow muscle, you're looking at an 8 to 15 rep range, 3 to 4 sets, and a 1 to 2 minute rest. And this rest is to help your glycogen help restore and get some of that phosphocreatine back in your muscles. But this is what is determining why you do what you do when it comes to lifting weights. All right, a starting point. This is a starting point. How much exercise do you actually need to reach your goals? The American College of Sports Medicine recommends about 150 minutes of aerobic exercise and resistance training twice per week. This is just to maintain basically where you are currently. If you want to have gains in one direction or the other, you have to get personalized. You have to cater a plan to your metabolism and your starting point. This is a decent place when it comes to maintenance of any gains you may have. And a quick research study looking at just aerobic exercise and weight loss. So this had two groups of individuals, and they walked for months, and they would either exercise at 400 calories or 600 calories per session versus a control. And you can see down here that the 400 calorie group lost about 4% of their body weight, 600 calorie group about 5.7, so a proportional increase, whereas the control group actually gained a little bit of body weight. And the whole purpose of this study is to see if just walking aerobic exercise alone is enough to lower body weight, and it is. This is without any diet at all. And what they saw post, they tracked them post. This is the amount of time they spent per week exercising post and the weight regain afterwards. And we can see very clearly from this that the magic number is greater than 200 minutes of aerobic exercise per week to, one, lose the most efficient amount of weight and keep it off long term and make sure that there is no rebound effect, like this rebound effect we see with the ACSM's 150 minutes. It's just not good enough. We need a little bit more. And resistance exercise and weight loss. This one's a little bit trickier. So with resistance exercise, you're actually increasing your muscle mass. So sometimes your weight actually goes up. And it's a little bit deceiving because your weight might be going up, but your body composition might actually be getting better. So you might be losing fat at the same time that you're building muscle mass. So it's hard to go off just a normal scale for this. In Precision RX, our lab, we have a scale that can actually measure the exact amounts to the pound of muscle mass and fat mass. So even if your weight ends up going up, we can make sure that that weight is coming from muscle and not fat. Resistance training exercise, though, is crucial to long-term weight management. So if you say have lost a decent amount of weight and a decent amount of body fat, it's crucial to have that resistance exercise in there to maintain the metabolism of your skeletal muscle. Onto our program specifically. So we've been doing this for some time here at the Lake Nona Performance Club. It's a 10-week metabolic health program, and it can be catered to a variety of goals. This can be metabolic health itself for prediabetes or any kinds of metabolic condition that someone may have. It can be weight management. We can increase your skeletal muscle mass, change your body composition. Really, how we do this is by just measuring where your metabolism and where your body is at now, and then guiding you in the right path, giving you the right formula to reach whatever that goal may be. And how it works is for pre-testing. You'll come into the lab, hopefully fasted. We'll do blood pressure, glucose, body composition with the InBody BIA, where we'll get your BMI. we'll measure your basal metabolic rate. So this basal metabolic rate is actually how many calories your body requires on a daily basis and where those calories are currently coming from. Sarah will go through a nutrition assessment, and then I'm going to do something called a metabolic lactate test. This test is a submaximal exercise test where you start off just walking, basically on a treadmill. And every 5 minutes, very slowly, we increase the intensity of that treadmill. I'm also at those increases where we increase the speed a little bit. I measure lactate in the blood, and lactate levels allow me to map your metabolism all the way from start to finish. So I can just find right where your body burns the most amount of fat, at what point during exercise your body stops burning fat, and then we can train those to make you much more efficient at both of those. And then throughout the 10 weeks, you're going to have 4 sessions with our dietitians. You'll have it says 2 sessions here. It always ends up being much more than that. So really you have access to me to come into the lab whenever you need to measure your body composition. I'm able, from your lactate measurements, to create an exercise prescription specific to your metabolism that will be good for about 4 months. If you comply for those 4 months, you will have trained to the point where those zones where you burn the most amount of fat and stop burning fat will change drastically. And we can connect you to a software on my computer if you would like, where we can just track your exercise remotely as well. So it makes altering your plan as you adapt and get better very easy. And then for post-testing, we will do a lot of the same measurements. So your blood pressure, your blood glucose, body composition again, and get your basal metabolic rate. And this is some of the equipment that we use. So down here on the bottom left, this is where we will actually measure your resting metabolic rate or your basal metabolic rate. All you have to do is lie down. I connect you via a mask, a face mask, to our analyzer here. And this takes about 20 minutes. And all I need you to do is come in, be relaxed, and hopefully not fall asleep. And we will get those measurements. This is really good data for Sarah to help know exactly where your diet plan needs to be. We measure body composition via this InBody device. This uses a small electrical current. You can't feel it, to basically track through the whole body and see what that current is actually tracking through. And then this is a visual of what our metabolic lactate test looks like. And from that lactate test, this is one of the profiles that I'll be able to get. Everyone has a unique profile, which is the importance of this test. Every metabolism is very different depending on lifestyle choices, all sorts of things, genetics, and we need to know what it is in order to make a plan that is going to be really effective for you. So you can see right here, this red line, this is actually lactate measurements. This is real data on an individual, and it's correlated and corresponds to their heart rates. And these two we link together to know what's going on even when we don't measure lactate. Down here on the bottom, this purple line is actually this individual's ability to burn fat. So this is fat burn or fat oxidation in grams per minute. And you could just plot it based upon the data that I get up here. So we can see right around 115 beats per minute, this person is reaching their maximum fat burning potential. And the goal of our program would be to basically push that off longer, because you can see that this starts to trend downward as exercise intensity increases until it gets to a point where they can no longer burn any fat at all. Both of these thresholds, your fat max and your lactate threshold here, are very trainable. You can train this by up to 50% in 4 months. And I will turn it over to Rachel to help discuss how to enroll in this program.
Yeah, first off, thank you so much, Tristan and Sarah. I think the amount of information that you can provide is just wonderful. I think a lot of the information is not well known, or we don't hear about it a lot. We hear a lot about what you just described, the fad diets. Well, you know, it's all about the calories I take in and the calories that come out, and it's like, well, not exactly. There's a lot more involved. So we are basically launching a second enrollment in our program. We did launch a first kind of pilot session in June, July of this year with a small group of people, and we're expanding that eligibility. So you don't have to, be, overweight trying to lose weight. You can have, the goal to increase muscle mass or just improve your health overall. And so we do have a limited number of spots that will be available, but we have a decent number with 35 that we're going to open up to employees, and then depending on the response to spouses. So I kind of laid out the details here. We're going to open up a sign up link following this presentation, or you can, if you have your smartphone out, you can go ahead and scan that QR code and that'll take you to the sign up link. That all of the information you put in that system doesn't go to me, but it'll go to Tristan and Sarah directly, and then they'll reach out to you. So we'll continue enrollment, having this open through January as well. And then it kind of just depends on your schedule and what works for you in terms of when you would begin. Everyone is a little bit different, but like I said, it's a really, really awesome program, but it does require, some commitment on your part, and it's about 10 weeks long or longer, depending on how you want to take it. So again, thank you so much, Tristan and Sarah, our friends over at the Lake Nona Performance Club. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. Again, feel free to take a screenshot of this QR code, and we will send an official link out for anybody who's interested to sign up. But thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. And we will send the recording out as well. Have a wonderful weekend.